ruthless.
This is the recap for CVMA Round 3. I don't have any race footage, but I guess I'll just tell you everything that happened while you watch my qualifying sessions. On Thursday, for the Racer's Edge private track day, I set a new personal best lap time, 1 minute 53.83 seconds. That was in the morning, second session I believe. I was struggling with the rear tires sliding around and wearing fast as I was finally picking up my pace. This was mitigated with some suspension adjustments, and I was eager to improve my personal best lap time. But my data logger stopped working, again. It turns out vibrations keep killing the input board due to the rigid fork mount I was using. Funny how the bracket I fabricated myself for my Daytona worked for years without issue, but I buy one off the shelf from a reputable store and it keeps killing my data logger. So did I improve on my time Friday or Thursday afternoon? I don't really know, but I plan on making a video with my fast lap once the data logger is repaired again so I can retrieve the data. Also on Thursday, before going out for the first session, I accidentally kicked the Insta360 X3 mounted on my tail, throwing my leg over the bike. I was really disappointed how the insert nut popped right out of the camera body with such little force on an action camera, but I don't think there's any way I'll be able to fix it reliably. So you only see the front view for qualifying. Friday was the CVMA practice day. I got lots of good riding in. Thursday afternoon I used an entire rear tire in only 3 sessions. But after the suspension adjustments made by Paradigm Racing trackside Friday morning, the rear tires still had life left after a full day of riding. I didn't notice any issues with the rear sliding, and I assume I was still pushing as hard. So Saturday morning, although I had no tail camera or data logger, everything seemed to be coming together for a good weekend. For the first qualifying session on Saturday, I tried to start up front, but there was a row of 4 riders already waiting to go out. My biggest concern for qualifying is always finding some clear track to just focus on my lines and my pace instead of getting stuck behind riders that I could probably go faster than, but not fast enough to get around them easily. But that is exactly what happened. I held back my pace eventually, hoping to put some space between me and the riders in front of me, but it didn't work. Not until the checkered flag came out anyway. So for the second qualifying practice, I intentionally went out a bit late. I was hoping to get out before everyone came around to start the first flying lap. I figured if I did encounter traffic, they would hopefully be easier to get around at least. That seemed to be working. I had clear track on my outlap. But on my first flying lap, I was coming up on some riders. I knew I had to pass them at least before I started another lap, but I didn't get that far. I crashed in turn 6. I thought the rear slid out without warning, but reviewing the video, it looks like the front went first. Was I just going too fast? It didn't feel like it, but the data logger wasn't working, so I don't know for sure. Time to upgrade the stock suspension, or maybe a softer front tire compound? This was a Dunlop R5 front I've used all season. The damage didn't seem too bad. Most notably, the front brake line was cracked and both handlebars bent. Even though Galfer does not stock brake lines trackside, they happen to have the one I needed. So I spent all day fixing everything and getting it ready to pass tech. The Insta360 X4 that was mounted on the nose of the bike was completely destroyed, although it was still recording. Even though the steel rod the camera was threaded on was really bent, there was no insert nut popping out of this camera. There was some cracking and deformation at the base though. The screen was shattered. One of the premium lens guards was shattered, resulting in some scratches on the actual lens. I missed both races Saturday, but I was prepared to pass tech inspection on Sunday morning, or so I thought. I was going to race with no cameras, no data logger, a tweaked subframe, cracked fairing stay and air duct, duct tape number plates, rash bodywork, and the spool tab ripped off the swing arm. But when I was riding the tech inspection Sunday morning, I realized the handlebars, or the top of the forks, were not aligned when the bike was going straight. This wasn't apparent when the bike was on stand since it couldn't sit straight with the spool tab missing. It is really hard to tell just by looking at it, but the consensus is the steering stem and bottom triple clamp are probably bent. I wasn't going to try to find a replacement in the paddock, then rebuild the whole front end in a last-ditch effort to race my already somewhat sketchy bike. So I packed it up and went home early. You would think that would be the end of my troubles, but on the way home, a tire on my toy hauler failed catastrophically, destroying the wheel well, smashing the propane furnace, and sending rubber and steel into traffic behind me as the trailer began to fishtail. Luckily, I had the tools to install the spare and secure all the sharp metal fragments from damaging it. So after investing all that money in a new, reliable platform of the ZX6R to avoid costly and time-consuming engine swaps, the expenses still keep piling on. I will be basically rebuilding the whole bike. At least the frame and engine seem to be fine, but now I need to fix the toy hauler too. I hope to make next round in January.